Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into something that's really changing our digital world, the future of identity security, and specifically how our own biology, is becoming the key online.
Absolutely.
We're diving into frankly, the astonishing growth in the biometric authentication solution market.
Yeah, and our guide for this is a really comprehensive market research report. It's titled Biometric Authentication Market, Global Growth Trends 2021-2033.
Okay.
And our mission really is to pull out the most crucial bits of info, the key insights, maybe some surprising projections from this data,
Right.
to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding where all this is going.
Exactly. Because this isn't just dry data, is it? It's about understanding these huge shifts in digital identity, in security. We want to make it accessible and, honestly, pretty exciting stuff.
Definitely.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Right.
Let's kick things off with the big picture, because here's where it gets really interesting. The sheer global surge of this market. How fast are we actually talking here?
Well, surge might be underselling it. It's more like an explosion.
Right.
So think about this. Back in 2021, the global market was worth just over $4.3 billion.
Okay, 4.3 billion.
But the projection for 2025, it nearly doubles. We're looking at around $8.5 billion.
Wow, in just 4 years.
Exactly. But the really big number, the headline figure, is for 2033. It's expected to soar to, get this, $32.3 billion.
32 billion.
That's right. So overall, the compound annual growth rate, the KGR, for this whole period is an impressive 18.2%.
Wow, an 18% CAGR sustained over, 12 years? That's phenomenal.
It really is.
What does that kind of, exponential growth really mean for us, for the average person?
Well, it means biometrics are shifting, fundamentally. They're going from being a sort of cool feature on your phone.
Right, like Face ID or a fingerprint sensor.
Exactly. To becoming the actual foundation of how we interact digitally. It's not just convenience anymore.
So what's driving it?
It's a global push for stronger cybersecurity, obviously, but also things like digital ID rollouts in healthcare, finance.
Critical sectors.
Critical sectors, exactly. And even new stuff like smart cities.
Yeah.
Every time you unlock your phone now with your face or a finger, you're essentially plugging into this rapidly expanding ecosystem. And soon that same tech will underpin, your bank account access, maybe your travel documents.
Okay.
Pretty much. Our reliance on these secure biometric systems is just growing incredibly fast.
That scale is just mind-boggling. Okay, let's zoom in a bit. Where are the real hotbeds of this growth? Let's start with the region that's historically been a major player. North America. What's the trajectory there?
North America definitely set the early pace, and it's still a powerhouse.
Right.
So in 2021, the revenue there was over $1.5 billion.
Okay.
That's projected to jump to over $10.8 billion by 2033.
Huge leap.
Yeah, maintaining a really strong CAGR, almost 17.7%. And if you break it
The
down...
U.S. must be dominant.
Absolutely. The U.S. market alone is set to grow from roughly $1.3 billion to nearly $9 billion by 2033.
Wow.
But, don't overlook Canada and Mexico. They're showing equally strong percentage growth. Canada's CAGR is actually slightly higher, over 18.5%.
Interesting.
It really shows a continent-wide adoption driven by businesses and consumers alike.
Okay, so that rapid acceleration in North America is clear. What about across the Atlantic? How's Europe doing? Is it a similar story?
Very similar, yes. A strong growth path. Europe's market was around $940 million back in 2021, projected to hit almost $6.6 billion by 2033. The CAGR is almost identical to North America, just over 17.7%.
Okay, and within Europe, any standouts?
Well, the big economies, Germany and the UK, are leading the way, both showing impressive growth. Over 18% CAGR forecasted for Germany, in fact.
Germany's growing even faster?
Slightly, yeah. Its market is forecast to grow like sevenfold, but it's really widespread. France, Italy, Spain, the Nordic countries, all showing strong double-digit growth. It points to a really unified push across the continent for more secure digital ID.
Okay, widespread growth there too. Now, you mentioned earlier that one region really stands out for, let's say, aggressive growth. Where's that?
That would be Asia Pacific. The report calls it the most aggressive growth region globally.
And the numbers?
A staggering KGR projected at over 19%.
19%.
Yeah. The market there is set to expand from just under $1.3 billion in 2021 to an incredible $10.3 billion by 2033.
That's huge.
It is. And within that, China's market alone is projected to go from about $360 million to over $3 billion.
Wow.
But the real speed story might be India, one of the fastest trajectories anywhere, a TGR of almost 20%.
20%.
Yep. Rising from $190 million to nearly $1.7 billion. That's almost a ninefold increase.
Incredible. What's fueling that in APAC?
A big part is just the sheer increase in smartphone use.
Right.
Plus, really significant government digital identity programs across the region, especially Southeast Asia, Taiwan.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that Asia-Pacific growth is definitely something else. But what about other areas? South America, for instance.
South America is showing really solid promise, too. Projected growth from about $220 million in 2021 to over $1.7 billion by 2033.
Okay, and the growth rate?
Pretty healthy. CAGR over 18.6%. Brazil's the clear leader there, expected to cross $626 million by 2033. But you also see strong potential in Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile. They're all looking at growth around that 18% mark or even higher.
So a strong regional push there as well.
Definitely indicates a commitment to modernizing authentication methods.
Okay, next up, the Middle East. What's the picture there? Investment, growth.
Another really strong region. Significant strides being made. It's forecast to expand from roughly $265 million in 2021 to over $2 billion by 2033.
That's quite a jump.
It is.
Yeah.
With a robust CAGR of over 18.3%, you're seeing serious investment in security tech from key players: Saudi Arabia, UAE, Turkey, Egypt, Qatar.
Any standouts like in other regions?
The UAE is particularly notable. Expected to grow from under $47 million to over $380 million by 2033.
Wow.
That's a CAGR above 19%. A lot of this is linked to big infrastructure projects, smart city initiatives.
Right, integrating it from the ground up.
Exactly.
Okay, and finally, let's round out the global tour with Africa. What does the landscape look like there?
Africa's market is also set for significant expansion, though starting from a smaller base.
Okay.
Growing from just over $104 million in 2021 to nearly $795 million by 2033.
Still substantial growth.
Absolutely. The key contributors are South Africa and Nigeria. South Africa specifically is projected to rise from about $42 million to over $345 million.
And the drivers there?
We're seeing increasing adoption in government sectors and also the telecom industry across the continent as that foundational digital infrastructure gets built out.
Got it. So we've looked at these incredible numbers, these projections across every single continent. What's the big takeaway? What does this all mean for us?
Well, I think the core message is crystal clear.
Yeah.
Biometric authentication. It's not sci-fi anymore. It's not even just coming soon.
It's here.
It's here, and it's rapidly becoming the actual bedrock of global security frameworks.
Right.
The report shows this broad adoption across absolutely vital sectors. Banking, think facial recognition for payments, healthcare securing patient data, law enforcement, obviously, and consumer electronics, where it's already everywhere.
It's unavoidable almost.
Increasingly so. This explosive growth is going to fundamentally change our daily lives, how we interact online, how our data is secured. It's shifting security from what you know, like a password, or what you have, like a key fob,
to who you are.
Exactly. Who you are becomes the ultimate key, your unique biology.
Okay, so we've seen the massive growth, the global reach, the sheer speed of this integration. It really is transformative.
It absolutely is, which leads to a bigger question, perhaps. Well, with this incredibly rapid adoption, this integration of biometrics into, daily life, critical infrastructure, what are the broader societal things we need to think about beyond just the security aspect?
You mean
Like privacy, obviously, but also accessibility. Does everyone have equal access? And fundamentally, trust. What does it mean to build trust in a world that's becoming truly digitally authenticated?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're asking, is the future of your digital identity really in your hands? Or maybe it's, in your face, or even your voice. We're diving into the biometric authentication solution market. It's this space that promises, ultimate security and convenience.
Right.
But it also brings up some pretty big questions about privacy and control for, all of us.
Really does. And it's a market that's pretty much set for exponential growth. So in this deep dive, we want to pull apart what's actually speeding up that expansion.
Okay.
What hurdles are still in the way, because there definitely are some. And look at the really exciting innovations shaping what comes next.
So sort of a shortcut to understanding this whole complex picture of digital identity.
Exactly. How it's evolving in our daily lives right now.
So what is pushing us towards this future that seems to have fewer passwords? I guess the most obvious answer is just the sheer number of cyber attacks and data breaches.
Yeah, that's definitely number one. I mean, you look at the reports, something like, what, over 80% of attacks, they exploit stolen or weak passwords. It's huge.
Wow, 80%.
Yeah, so businesses, governments, they're scrambling. They need something that you just can't steal easily.
Right, something fundamentally unstealable.
And that's where biometrics come in, you see. It uses what makes you you, your fingerprint, your face shape, even how you talk.
Those unique traits.
Exactly. So it offers this really personal, very accurate, and frankly difficult to copy layer of protection. It's not just like a nice to have anymore.
Yeah.
It's becoming pretty much the only way to scale defense against this epidemic of identity theft. Think about your online banking or health records. Really sensitive stuff.
But it's not just the need for better security, is it? It's also, well, how easy it's become.
Oh, absolutely. Accessibility is huge.
I mean, the device most people are probably holding right now, their smartphone. The explosion in smartphones and how seamlessly biometrics are just built in now, that's really pushed it into the mainstream, hasn't it?
Totally. I mean, think about it. You unlock your phone, maybe approve a payment, log into an app.
Daily routine.
It's just part of the daily routine now. And that familiarity, it's not just for personal stuff. It's boosting adoption everywhere. E-commerce, travel, fintech, even like online classes.
So it's gone from being a kind of niche security thing to
Basically fundamental.
Yeah.
The core part of how we interact with tech.
and then there's the push from the top down too, like regulations.
Mm-hmm. Governments and international bodies are actually starting to require stronger authentication.
Okay, so it's being mandated in some cases.
That's a really critical point, actually. These global compliance rules are major accelerators. You've got things like PSD2 in Europe, for payments.
Stronger checks needed.
Or India's massive Aadhaar system, the biometric ID program, is one of the biggest in the world.
Huge scale.
And just the everyday KYC, know your customer rules in banking. These aren't just about securing transactions anymore. They're forcing the issue, pushing biometrics into both public and private sectors.
So it becomes non-negotiable for things like
Immigration, border control, national security. Yeah, are absolutely essential in those areas.
Okay, so if the promise is that big and the need is so clear, why isn't it just everywhere instantly? There must be hurdles.
Oh, definitely. Like any powerful tech, it comes with challenges. And probably top of the list, privacy concerns.
Right. This data, your fingerprint, your face scan, it's incredibly personal.
Exactly. So people worry, quite rightly, about how it's stored, who gets access, could it be misused?
Yeah, those are big questions.
And it's a real point of friction. You see a lot of hesitation from users, especially somewhere like Europe with GDPR, those strict privacy laws.
Understandably.
So companies, they're under massive pressure. They need to be transparent about how they handle the data, store it securely, and critically, get proper consent from you.
Without that trust, it's hard to move forward.
Exactly. If people don't trust it, they won't adopt it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's a major barrier.
And beyond the privacy aspect, what about just the practical cost? Setting these systems up.
Ah, yes. Cost. That's another big one. Rolling out sophisticated biometric systems. It's not cheap.
No, I imagine not.
You need this hardware-first, specialized scanners, good cameras, software platforms that can handle it all.
And then training people to use it.
And training, yeah, ongoing maintenance. For smaller businesses, even medium-sized ones, that can be a serious financial hit.
And what about bigger companies with old systems?
That's another layer. Trying to update those legacy systems to work with modern biometrics, that often means huge investments.
Which can slow things down.
Definitely slows down adoption. You see that particularly in, say, emerging economies or in sectors where margins are tight.
And we also can't ignore the tech itself isn't always perfect, right?
Yeah.
False positives, errors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've all probably had that moment trying to unlock our phone with a wet finger or something.
Or, yeah, facial recognition struggling if you suddenly grow a beard or wear new glasses.
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
So, while it's generally reliable,
Generally, yes. But inconsistencies can pop up. Hardware might glitch, the environment could interfere, or just natural changes in you. Maybe you get sick or just get older.
and those errors,
Yeah.
they can be annoying, but also a security risk.
They can compromise security, absolutely, or just really frustrate the user. And if you're talking about critical industries, places that need absolutely flawless access control, Well, that's still a pretty significant hurdle.
But you mentioned AI earlier. Is that helping here?
That's actually a really insightful point. AI is starting to enable what they call adaptive learning.
Okay.
So the system can actually learn and subtly adjust to your biometric changes over time. It moves from just a static picture to something more dynamic, more intelligent. That helps mitigate some of those errors.
Interesting. So despite these challenges, the innovation is still pushing forward hard.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there's some really cool trends shaping what's next.
Like what? What's coming down the pipe?
Well, first up is something called multimodal biometric authentication.
Multimodal, meaning
Yeah.
multiple types.
Exactly. Instead of just relying on, say, your fingerprint or your face, systems are starting to combine them.
Ah, okay. Like using two locks instead of one.
Kind of, yeah. So maybe it pairs a fingerprint scan with facial recognition or an iris scan with a voice print.
And that makes it.
It dramatically boosts accuracy. It makes it much harder to spoof the system, trick it, and it just makes the whole thing more reliable overall.
Because if one method fails, the other might still work.
Precisely. Maybe it's too dark for facial recognition, but your fingerprint works fine, or too noisy for voice, but the iris scan is okay. It adds resilience.
Makes sense, especially for high security places.
Absolutely. Think airports, military bases, big financial institutions. That multi-layered defense is becoming crucial there.
You mentioned AI and machine learning earlier, too. How exactly are they changing the game beyond just recognizing patterns better?
Yeah, it's more than just pattern matching. AI allows for continuous learning, like we touched on, but also for detecting anomalies, things
Yeah.
that seem out of place.
Okay.
And a really key development is liveness detection.
Liveness detection, what's that?
It's basically the system checking that it's seeing a real live person in front of it, not just, say, a photo held up to the camera or a recording of someone's voice.
So fighting those spoofing attempts.
Exactly. It's critical for security. So these AI-powered systems, they're making authentication faster, definitely smarter, and much more adaptive. They're constantly learning from real-world use.
Very cool. And the final trend you mentioned, contactless remote verification. That seems like it really took off recently,
It absolutely did. The pandemic definitely accelerated that shift in a big way.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah. So industries are rapidly adopting things like touchless facial recognition, iris scanning from a distance, voice verification over the phone, anything to reduce physical contact.
Which is good for hygiene, but also just convenient.
Both, absolutely. These are really valuable for stuff like onboarding new employees remotely, digital banking applications, controlling access in public spaces without everyone touching the same keypad.
Right.
And as long as health and hygiene are still on people's minds, which they likely will be, contactless biometrics are going to be a really important part of identity management.
So putting it all together then,
Yeah.
where does this leave us? It feels like this market is right at a crossroads.
It really is. It's at this intersection of, powerful tech, how we think about trust, and some pretty fundamental changes in society.
And it's getting deeper into our phones, our devices.
Yeah, deeper roots in mobile, integrating more with AI, using the cloud, and it's just becoming relevant in more and more industries all over the world.
So it really does seem poised for that exponential growth you mentioned at the start, redefining how we prove who we are online.
Absolutely, which kind of leads to a final thought maybe for you listening. As these technologies get even more woven into our lives, moving away from passwords towards us, our actual biology, how do you think that balance is going to play out?
The balance between.
Between the convenience, the really strong security it offers, and, well, our own sense of personal privacy and maybe even digital autonomy.
That's a big question.
It is. Something definitely worth mulling over as you navigate your own increasingly biometric secured digital world.